Good morning, everyone. Welcome this morning to the digital transformation team and our presentation with Vector Flow regarding next generation physical identity and access management. I'm Doug Greenwald, and I head up what we call identity assurance. I'll be covering a little bit about what that means here this morning. But also joining me from the Vector Flow team is Kyle Elliott and Lou Capuzzo. Gentlemen, thank you for joining.
Thank you, Doug. Thank you.
So as we get into this morning, we're going to go through some quick introductions, just a little background of each one of us so you know who you're going to be hearing from today. And then we're going to dive into how identity management is changing and evolving in a world that really needs it to, and how Vector Flow is uniquely positioned to be able to help support that. Additionally, the Vector Flow team is going to be walking through not only their specific value proposition and how they're evolving over the way the legacy platforms have worked in the past, but also we're going to be going through a live demo of the software to show you just how easy it is now today to be able to implement complex workflows in your own environment on your own. And lastly, we'll have an opportunity for some Q&A at the end. So if you notice, there's a little chat function there within your viewer window. Go ahead and hit on that, drop in your question, and we'll either get to it real time while we're going through this, or we'll make sure we pick some from the end to make sure that we're able to cover some things. So that's the plan for the next 45 to 50 minutes, and we'll go ahead and get started. So one of the things I'd like Kyle and Lou to do just real quick is give us a brief overview of your background. And Kyle, we'll start with you.
Thank you, Doug. Good morning, everyone. My name is Kyle Elliott. I'm the Vice President of Global Sales for Vector Flow. I've got over 15 years in enterprise physical security software background experience, spent my entire career in enterprise software. Most recently with 8 years running the HID Global Physical Identity and Access Management, Visitor Management, and Credential card business. Happy to be here.
Yeah, good morning, everyone. Lou Capuzzo, Director of Technical Solutions for Vector Flow. I've been in the identity and access management space for the last decade, held a number of roles at Quantum Secure, HID, and now Vector Flow, running everything from pre-sales to starting HID's first customer success organization. So I really focus with my team from an engineering and also from a customer success perspective, making sure that we align our suite and platform with customer problems and challenges, and coming up with innovative solutions that are simple to use, easy to use, and effective from a security perspective, and adaptable for the long haul. So it's really good to speak with everybody today.
Excellent. Thanks, Kyle and Lou, and we'll be coming to you guys again here in just a moment. But for those of you watching, if you're a Convergint colleague, if you're a customer or somebody that's been looking to work with Convergint, I think this is going to be really relevant because Convergint is always striving to try and find new and innovative ways to be our customer's best service provider. And as part of that, the team that I sit on has really evolved into our digital transformation initiatives across the globe. We used to be kind of set in Quad 4, which came out of trying to work with like the legacy quantum secure solutions of physical identity access management. And then we started to see there was a need across the globe for other solutions that fit into other categories outside of just identity management. And so as Convergint has evolved this idea of digital transformation, we're looking at things surrounding fusion centers and what we've termed identity assurance, which we'll cover a little bit more here in a moment. And then, of course, we're looking at ways to help with the autonomous guard market and looking at a whole lot of new cloud solutions that are coming to market surrounding access control, video surveillance, and really leaning into how is that going to support a wide range of vertical solutions tiered towards utilities, healthcare, data centers, some of our most prominent areas that we're spending a lot of time with. But more importantly, we're also looking at how AI, computer vision, and how to kind of wrap all of this up into a managed service so that customers that work with Convergint not only get kind of the best in breed products, but also have a team that's capable of being able to support each one of these new innovative solutions that are driving fast time to value, ROIs across additional business units that get outside of security traditionally. And also now starting to provide a model that is more digestible from an OpEx perspective long-term. So as you work with your Convergint reps or are looking to work with Convergint more closely, the team that I sit on is, again, a global resource for our local colleagues to make sure that we're helping to leverage resources appropriately and also find ways and solutions that are going to continue to advance your mission as an organization. Now, with that, what we're going to be talking about here today falls under my purview of identity assurance and authentication. So you can see here's a long list of use cases available to you as part of working with Convergint's digital transformation team. But today we're going to be really focused on physical identity and access management. So what is that? And we're going to be getting into a little bit more of the weeds, but let's talk a little bit about the workflow and what's associated with this. Traditionally, organizations that have gone through a great deal of acquisition or grown very fast have found that they don't have standardized identity solutions. Primarily, they're working with multiple access control systems out in the field. Maybe they're carrying multiple different credentials and have shared resources trying to access facilities at different times. What we also find is that you've got HR systems, you've got IT security management tools, and you've got a wide range of databases that don't really have a single source of truth driving back the active identities across your employees, contractors, and visitors. And so the introduction of physical identity access management helps to converge all of those different solutions that you've already got in your enterprise down to a single database to be able to drive rules, policy, and workflows that allow for a much better experience from the user perspective, but also allows the organization to not have to worry about getting to unified systems across the enterprise. It allows them to use what they have in place and put a migration plan for the next few years, or continue to go as business as usual when they've introduced an identity management solution into the workplace. And the reason we're seeing some of these things happen is because through COVID happening and a lot of organizations looking to maximize their resources, we're seeing big push into the cloud across historically cloud adverse organizations. We see a move away from legacy on-prem security solutions now to more cloud-based and more streaming type services like we're going to be talking about with Vector Flow. And ultimately, we're also seeing that organizations are continuously trying to keep up with hiring top talent and retaining individuals for longer periods of time. So automation is becoming a big part of most of the enterprises that we're working with. So we're going to talk about how that's a key and relevant driver today to not only provide an ROI, but provide better business practices as well. So as we get into this, what's changed for physical identity access management over the last few years? Well, this is going to be key to what Kyle and Lou are going to be walking through. Historically, it's been on-premise and it's been driven by hard-coded rules. What's going to be exciting today is Vector Flow is going to show you how they're a cloud-first solution, living with microservices that provide a no-code model that is all driven by the organizations. Drag and drop workflows, very easy to utilize from an administrative standpoint without having to consistently go back and get professional services to make adjustments around change management when those occur. In the past too, we found that scope was overly complicated. A lot of different business units got involved and it got very complicated very fast. And so today what we're finding with Vector Flow is we're able to identify very specific needs that we can drive very fast times to value that can impact multiple business units in a very positive way. As Vector Flow has come to the table to modernize, we also find that this single source of truth allows us to automate a lot more today, and we're going to get into that. And the biggest thing that we see with Vector Flow in our experience thus far is legacy solutions of the past have taken years to deliver value into the organizations they're working with. Today, we're seeing that can be realized in just a few short months. So we're excited to be able to walk through that today. And one of the best parts about this is Convergint's always got your back. So from a digital transformation perspective, we have key team members on our side that we can help not only deliver these complex solutions into your organization, but we're here to support your local AE and local offices. So they don't have to worry about having to hire those resources. From afar, we're able to deliver, a lead application specialist, integration engineer, business analyst, and these delivery managers that understand these solutions to the point where we can deliver it again within that short time to value that legacy solutions of the past have not been able to do. So with that, Kyle and Lou, I'm going to turn things over to you for the remainder, and we'll look forward to chatting more when we get into the actual Q&A side.
Thank you, Doug. And thank you, everyone. And good morning again. This is Kyle Elliott, and I'm just going to spend a few minutes kind of familiarizing you with Vector Flow. We're maybe not a brand name that you recognize, but certainly we're a company that's having kind of a disruptive effect on physical security, and we're thrilled to be partnered with Convergint, the leader in digital transformation and physical security technology. You already met Lou and I. I'm going to spend maybe 10 minutes, no more, familiarizing with who we are and what makes us really different from other solutions you may be familiar with in the industry. We'll turn it over to Lou, and we'll focus really on a demonstration of the UI from both an administrative as well as an end user, but really showing you the power of Vector Flow, the scalability, the flexibility that the software offers to really create a completely automated journey for the identity and access management experience. Vector Flow, you know, the executive leadership and the founders of Vector Flow have over 150 years combined experience in the identity and access management space. And our focus is, again, to be disruptive, to change the old ways that things have been done, to utilize the power of data and artificial intelligence to streamline the identity and access management journey, to provide a better experience for administrators, IT, physical security, as well as your end users. So we'll be kind of unpacking some of those key things today. And the reason that we're here is because we know that the landscape has changed, right? Physical security is being asked to do many different things than they were even 5 years ago. There's a real desire to have data-driven types of decisions made as opposed to human ones, to reduce friction and time and cost and effort, to create digital transformation, to find things like insider threat behaviors and concerns as it relates to physical security devices or physical access. So these are some of just the key examples of how the landscape has changed and the things that we're doing to address that. Vector Flow, again, is a data-driven technology, and our platform consumes data from a wide variety of different systems, from your authoritative data systems, that could be your HR system, your contractor system, your Active Directory, and what have you, as well as full integration between those systems and your physical access control. We drive that data, that real-time data streaming capability, through actionable intelligence using artificial intelligence and machine learning to aid and power our different applications. And so from a PIAM perspective, the key drivers there is automating this process, having very, very high level of performance, but again, eliminating these cumbersome challenges of adjusting a UI or adjusting a workflow or creating a new audit and compliance report without having custom code. And we'll talk about that in our demonstration here shortly. The things that we built, we know, right, that legacy physical identity solutions have not so great a reputation. They're very expensive and very time consuming to deploy. We've addressed that with things like our playbooks and our design studios. We can deploy in typically 1/12 the time, delivering rapid business value. But we also offer our customers the flexibility and the adaptability to maintain the software and adapt it over time, because we know changes are inevitable, without having to do these cumbersome custom codings. And that impacts not only performance and end user experience, but it adds costs and reduces the return on investment that's associated with PIAM. We also know one of the big challenges with legacy PIAM solutions is performance. They are a kind of a message bus driven architecture where data is pulled or pushed periodically throughout the day, right? This whole batch performance type of experience. And we live in a real-time world, so our data should be captured in real time. And Vector Flow provides that capability with real-time data streaming. And then we use AI for a variety of different purposes, generally to drive predictions and recommendations to aid with the automation process of access assignment, but also aid in the process of the important compliance and audit reporting, and give insights and capabilities to administrators to make things less risky to physical security and a better journey for end users overall. And Doug rightly was talking earlier about what makes Vector Flow different versus legacy systems. But again, the key topics here, I think, starting with data reconciliation. Legacy solutions expect that the end user is going to keep their data clean. Vector Flow recognizes this as a real weakness, and we provide a data reconciliation that will synchronize data between your authoritative data sources and your physical access control systems on a continuous basis. Again, we utilize things like design studios to allow for simple, seamless, easy ways of adapting the software to the different locations, the different onboarding or change access or offboarding requirements that your organization will have. And then again, real-time data streaming, high level of performance on a continuous basis, and no code requirements to ease in ongoing maintenance, upgrades, and other aspects. There's a long list to talk about here, but there's some significant differences between yesterday's legacy PIAM solutions and the one delivered today by Vector Flow. And our goal, really simply, again, is to automate the entire identity workforce access management lifecycle. Not just a few things, but everything. And on a continuous basis, as we consume data within your organization, the AI becomes more powerful. It learns more from your organization, from your history, from the different locations, and it aids in the process of making recommendations and predicting various different things. This will provide a completely cohesive solution, which you'll find your administrators and your end users will find an exceptionally better experience. One of the key elements of a successful next generation PIAM is self-service for end users. These are people that don't know anything about physical security or even IT. We provide a seamless single point for end users to do a wide variety of tasks as it relates to their physical security and their access identity. And Lou will talk to us a little bit more in the demonstration about the power that we've provided in a single portal view to do anything that you need to do as an end user without knowing what policy is, without knowing what process is, but to report various things, to receive good information, to see the history that you've had around physical access to different locations, to request a new card, to report a lost or stolen one, any number of different things. We also know that one of the most important aspects of what a PIAM should be is managing the very important compliance and audit reporting you have. And Vector Flow provides a next generation, again, data-driven, fully encompassed solution for this very, very important task, whether it's on-demand reporting or scheduled reporting. And there's some really powerful capabilities within the artificial intelligence that provides a completely deeper layer of knowledge and actionable intelligence that Vector Flow provides. And here's a good example. Our recommendation engine, as we're generating, say, attestations or area owner audits, can detect various different behaviors, anomalies, things that are outside of the norm and provide rapid recommendations. A good example might be Lou joined my organization 6 months ago, and his birthright or baseline access was provided. But over that 6 months, perhaps Lou has only used 50% of the access provided. That could recommend an opportunity for us to deprovision the unused access to make security better. Conversely, if Lou joined 6 months ago, but he's had multiple requests for change access because his job requires it or he needs to travel, Vector Flow is smart enough to, again, maybe make the recommendation that that change access should be added to Lou on a permanent basis. And again, we'll kind of look at the power of these capabilities and how it really aids and speeds and simplifies the important compliance and audit, but gives administrators the power of data to be able to make rapid and quick decisions. Vector Flow also provides a very powerful capability to look at all of the various security risks within your organization. That could be insider risk behavior, card sharing, card cloning, things of that nature, different sites that have potential risks, configurations, right? This could be things like old firmware or weak encryption or weak passwords. Any number of these different anomalies can be displayed within a simple and easy dashboard view from Vector Flow. And we're not just looking at physical access control data, we're looking at data from across all of your different physical security devices. This is the powerful capability of driving a proactive, actionable intelligence, insider threat detection within your organization. Because we know that typically 70%, if not more, cyber attacks originate from physical security devices, weak points, areas that aren't being watched. And Vector Flow wants to help our customers with those capabilities. And as I was mentioning earlier, our insider threat detection dashboard, which is part of the overall PIAM solution, allows for ongoing and continuous real-time visibility to the most important metrics across your organization. Again, risky individuals, risky behaviors, anomalies, patterns, things that are most important to you, as well as looking at devices that potentially represent an increased level of risk. I'd like to highlight a recent deployment from Convergint with Vector Flow, and this is British Petroleum, a really fantastic project. It's a global deployment of physical identity and access management for their entire workforce, as well as global enterprise visitor management. And that includes things like integration with their contractor system, their Active Directory, their HR, their physical access control system for a very, very large group of workforce people. But it also includes important things that are common today: desk reservation, hoteling, room reservation, other key services that are really important to, again, that end user experience. Managing the occupancy controls within different areas or buildings, right? Being able to have this power of data to provide extended capabilities. So with that, I promised for a very quick and short update on Vector Flow and what makes us different. I'd like to pass it over to my colleague, Lou, who can take us through a product demonstration. Lou?
Thanks, Kyle. And good morning, everyone. So before we jump into the product demonstration, I want to humanize this a bit, right? Because really what the application does is manage people, right? And give people access to manage their facilities, their contractors, their employees and visitors, and all the various roles that you have within an organization. Certainly there are dozens, if not more, right? So I want to just touch on a few of those, because what you'll see in our demonstration is it's role-based, right? Each person, each role serves a different function for every business and would have access and needs to utilize Vector Flow in their own specific way. So folks like employee managers, right? Today, they're responsible for onboarding their subordinates and people that work under their team. Very often that requires, manual efforts to raise access requests, badge requests, those kind of things. Which is a cumbersome process today. So we'll talk about how we'll help folks like Sherry be able to simplify that process and automate it to 100% of extent there, and utilize some really unique stuff around AI-driven recommendations to fill in nuance access. The employee, right? Let's not forget about the employees. As Doug was talking about, retaining talent, that all involves with providing best-in-class tools for those employees to perform their jobs, but also from a corporate, standardization and corporate culture perspective, we want to provide them with easy to use tools so that requesting a badge or reporting a badge lost or stolen or traveling to other locations is simple. It's easy. It doesn't, stop them from doing their job, which is what you're paying them to do and be good at, right? So we'll talk about how Vector Flow helps the employee experience. The badging team, right? Being able to simplify. They have a lot on their plate, from, assigning access to, doing investigations, to providing executive protection, to doing audits and all these things. There's a lot of manual tasks on their plate. Vector Flow can automate a lot of those, even provide remote badge printing without the need for a heavy investment in hardware infrastructure. Contractors, right? Let's not forget about the contractor base. Many companies today have a large contingent worker force. Sometimes it's even larger than the native employee workforce. So how do we simplify that process, yet still abide by all of your corporate policies for onboarding, access management, even things like auditing, contractor badges and so forth, and making that a very easy process, yet conform to any regulations and requirements you have, and making it easy so that we have, no wasted time from our contractor workforce. Also, Sean is an area owner. So what does the auditing process look like today? How can we simplify that? How we can provide them with a full audit trail and a full data-driven recommendations so that making the right determination on retaining and revoking access, they make the right decision, and we only permit access to those who actually need it. Then from an administrative perspective, being able to easily adapt the solution as your business needs change. No business stays the same, right? Every business is dynamic today, 3 months from now, a year from now, and so on. How can folks like Sam be able to make changes to the application? How can we implement workflows that meet today's needs, but also change for tomorrow's needs? How can I do things in bulk when I have new sites that come online, sites that go offline, we acquire a new business? How do we integrate all that and make that easy without crippling the efficiency of the business? So we'll show what it looks like from Sam's perspective. Also from an IT and administrative perspective, how can we get the best data out of the system? There's lots of data in all these systems that are integrated, but there's nothing to really leverage that from a physical security perspective, and not just report on the data, but be much more predictive and proactive in terms of how we do workforce planning, occupancy planning, and ensure that there is perpetual synchronization and data integrity across all of these systems. So I'm going to try to touch on all these folks. We're not going to go into super detail, but we're going to give you a real good overview of some of the key highlights of where Vector Flow simplifies processes, provides a great experience, and also makes valuable usage of data, AI-driven recommendations, and insights from your operations. All right, so let's talk a little bit about onboarding, right? So the requirement for onboarding is typically multi-step process, right? So what Vector Flow does is automates in real time any new employees and or contractors that come into an organization, and automatically does a number of things: assigning base access, starts the card requisitioning, and automatically raises access requests for the onboarding manager. What you're looking at here is the Vector Flow self-service web portal. Mobile first design, anything you can do on a laptop, you can do on a tablet, you can do on your mobile device. Extremely portable, available on any web browser globally. Your common functions for self-service users right up here at the top. You don't have to go searching for it. It's super easy. We can subscribe to corporate announcements. You can even define corporate communications and push them out from Vector Flow. AI-driven recommendations, extremely important. Having to remember to do things leads to failures and audits and missed tasks and assignments. Vector Flow's unique recommendations engine is constantly looking at expiring tasks, upcoming tasks, badge audits, identity audits, things that people are required to do. Because let's be honest, you're not living in this application all day. Only the folks that need to do, there's certain actions and activities. That's the expectation. But they need to have those things made available to them to make it very easy. So let's take this example from an onboarding perspective. Sandra Jones is a new employee for Sherry Smith. So instead of Sherry having to go and raise an access request to the badging team, she has to remember this person's role in the specific access areas they need. Vector Flow completely automates that and starts the access request for her. It uses things like peer group analysis and other attributes to automatically recommend the access that she likely needs based on, let's say, for example, other members of the team that already have access there, or others that commonly requested access. Here we reduce effort, we provide ultimate accuracy, and we save time and effort for that onboarding manager. Think about how this scales out over dozens and hundreds of hiring managers, hiring people, on a daily and weekly basis. This is the kind of scalable solution that they need to be able to make their jobs easier and focus on the higher priority tasks. Options like this, right? So onboarding becomes very, very easy. We'll talk about even what that looks like from the employee's perspective, right? So just bear with me 1 second. So what does it look like for the employee and how that simplifies their process? Well, every employee that gets hired receives welcoming emails. But COVID, kind of in the advent of remote working, really changed the badging, really changed how we badge individuals and what that process looks like. So, the days of having to have people come in, to the badging office, wait on long lines, all those kind of things, we've really simplified that process, right? So what Vector Flow does is it gives you an AI-driven We have an intelligent photo capture portal, and it's all browser-based. You can do this. I'm doing this from my tablet here, where individuals can, and employees and contractors can capture and upload their photo, via their mobile device. And we have a multi-point AI check that verifies anybody's badge photo. So I'll go ahead and I'll capture my photo, I'll validate, and it's going to tell me if my badge photo passed or not. And you could set this to your corporate standards and policies for a consistent background, not wearing glasses, all those kind of things. This saves a lot of time and effort when it comes to uploading badge photos. Gone are the days of coming in, standing around, having to wait, an hour or so for your badge. Employees and contractors can upload their photo. The AI will do that multi-point check, make sure that it meets your corporate standards for badges. And once that is submitted, you can also then have a final approval task before Vector Flow automates the badging process. So really, again, simplifying process, reducing manual efforts, utilizing technology for what it's supposed to do to reduce those manual efforts and provide a great experience along the way. Now, once the employee takes their badge photo, we have a completely unique, centralized, and distributed badging dashboard. So all of the employee and contractor badges will show up in a dashboard here. This can be distributed, again, from a central location. We can automatically print badges without the need for physical additional infrastructure. We can even turn non-network printers into network printers with our remote printing service. So managing any type of badge, even the age of badges, managing badges in queue, all those kind of things, even role-based badging, regionalized badging, even local site printing can be done here. So, I could do things from a bulk perspective. We can print out badges, see what those look like before and after, and executing those remote badge print jobs directly from Vector Flow. So this is really going to simplify your badging process, reduce the efforts and the cost, certainly with shipping badges, where I can start to make use of my badge printers locally and be able to provide greater value there and execute those print jobs even automatically based on when employees and contractors upload all of their necessary data. So we can track any prerequisites, whether it's a background check, a training completion, any consent forms, whatever it might be. We can track all of those actions, all color-coded, all very easy to see here, and ensure that we're only printing the badges once all those necessary prerequisites have been met. So really cool stuff that we're doing from a badging perspective. Now, it's not just employees, right? As I mentioned, huge contingent workforce in many organizations today. How do we make that easy? Well, Vector Flow, again, self-service, is completely role-based. So now what we've been able to do is offload the burden from the parent company in managing all of these contingent workforces, right? So still remaining and retaining that final approval for any onboarding of contractors, offboarding, badging requests, access requests, but really simplifying the process. So we give you granular controls and set up templates around managing companies and contracts, and you can define within contracts a prime sub relationship, the work sites, the access areas that are relative to that particular contract, even down to the badge types and the individual work roles that associate with those badge types and access. So creating this structure really provides consistency and a level of accountability for your contractors. And then once we set up that contract, now the contracting staff can start to a designated, let's say, authorized signatory or admin for that contract company, let's say in this case, RightSource, they can manage all their people, save the time and effort from your internal team, and still retain that final approval. So Sean Terry is the authorized admin for RightSource. So she's able to manage all of the various contractors within her company and their various applications. So each contractor would have their own link to a secure portal to upload things like their photo, health screening, and health questionnaires, any prerequisite forms that you require in order to do work on a particular site for the company, whether it's NDAs, trainings, safety trainings, all those kind of things. You can incorporate that into the onboarding process. And then the contractor authorized admin will approve those requests, whether it's for onboarding, badges, and access before it ever goes to, your parent company. So save time, save effort, and also provide a great experience so that when those contractors arrive on site, the vetting is done, their requests have been approved, their badge is ready. You don't waste time and money, right? At the end of the day, it comes down to money. How many times have we had contractors standing around? You're paying them for that time. This really eliminates all of that risk, all of that effort, and provides a great experience that is 100% compliant to your processes and procedures for any work-related activities. So really cool stuff we're doing for contractors, and all of that stuff, again, is governed by the policies of the company that you set up, that contingent company, and the individual contracts. So really, really unique control that you have, and very robust with the types of activities that you allow them to do, right? Certain levels of autonomy, but also, most importantly, the parent company retains final approval before granting any access or assigning badges and all the things that you expect Vector Flow to do. Okay, so just want to pivot back to this just real quick. So getting employees onboarded very quickly and easily, providing a great experience, reimagining and automating that badging process, helping to manage contractors more effectively and scale and at scale, right? Let's talk about once somebody is an employee, they're settled, they have their badge, they have their base access, all that kind of stuff. Well, if people want to do, very often, somebody loses a badge or it's stolen, what they'll be able to do is report their badge lost or stolen right from here, right? So we'll be able to, select a badge, report a badge lost or stolen, and be able to even choose where that badge goes, right? If I want to, if it's damaged, where do I want to send that badge? Maybe I want to send it to my home location. I'm going to select a particular pickup site or issuance site because I know it's the closest work location for me. So very simple process, very easy. Vector Flow automatically updates the status of the card to be turned off. The primary badge is turned off so that we reduce any risks of that badge, that's out there that somebody could have picked up, and we try to use that. Also for travelers, right? Really simplifying the process of making access requests. So right from the self-service portal, they can go and request access. Here's where Vector Flow is very unique, AI-driven recommendations for access requests. And does any employee really know how the structure of an access control system? No, and they shouldn't have to. So Vector Flow provides plain English, friendly names for access, but also automatically suggests access based on the location that they're traveling to, even the person that they're going to visit. So based on those, real world factors, we're going to automatically suggest that access. And our transparent AI is going to even suggest things like other peers that have that access or others that even requested that access recently. So simplifying that process, making sure that there's no erroneous requests that are submitted, because that takes someone's time to approve that access, so that when workers do travel, by the time they show up, they have the access they need. They're not sitting around and waiting, and they have a great experience and focus on the work at hand. Certainly, this is something we found it to be a big struggle with organizations today, and really typically, always falls on the badging and access team, and it's usually in a reactive mode. Vector Flow's in a very easy to use access request, simplifies that process, guarantees that they get the right access, and allows the worker to travel with much less stress. Okay, so access requests, now from a perspective of recertification of access, right? So Vector Flow has a very unique auditing module that really simplifies the access auditing process, right? So recertifying access to areas, recertifying badges for contractors, even things like job transfer audits. If somebody's manager changes, their role changes, things like that can trigger recertifications of access. This is critical for folks in the healthcare industry, banking industry, and energy and gas industry, because there are strict requirements around auditing access for individuals to highly secure areas, high secure sites, and ensuring that from a zero trust model, only the right people have access or retain access into certain into those areas. So let's take an example here. When an audit is set up, it can be delivered automatically every month, every quarter, whatever schedule that you want. But the task is extremely simple, and it includes lots of information that's relevant for that auditor to make the right determination on who should retain and who should revoke access. So in this case, we've got an individual that has access to a number of areas, and we could do a number of things here. Number one, I can see recent badge swipes. So querying the access control system to answer a very important question. Does this person actually use this area? If they don't really use it, or maybe they used it once in the last 3 months, they probably don't need to have access. I could see this person here accesses this office or this area quite often. Any prerequisites? Maybe there is a certain background check or prerequisite training or ongoing training that they need to have in order to retain that access. Well, I could see here that this person has it. So our AI is recommending that they continue to have that access. We simplify this plot process. Our AI is recommending the next course of action based on things like peer group analysis and all of that data that's within the system. Have they used it? Do they have the right compliance status? This is critical. We want to make sure that the right people retain access so we don't run the risk of any potential breaches or granting or continuing access for those that don't need it. Right? So really important. Even being able to answer, any prior actions, right? A full custody, chain of custody, and a full audit trail. Vector Flow provides this. Outside of Vector Flow, this would be a process that requires, information from, a multitude of systems, running individual reports, very time consuming, very cumbersome, and certainly, error prone when it comes to these manual decisions that need to be made. So we can see when they were granted that access, who granted that access, how many times have they been retained in the past. So there's a wealth of data that's available to the auditor. They can do things in bulk here. So there's lots that you can do very easily from Vector Flow. This simplifies the process and ensures that they're going to make the right decision when it comes to retaining and revoking access. Okay, so managing the employee and contractor and so forth life cycle, right? We've covered a number of these different personas today. Let's talk about from an adaptability and manageability perspective, right? So Vector Flow has very unique, industry, first design studios. What makes these very unique is that they are a no-code design. Eliminates professional services, eliminates hard-coded changes to the application. Everything that you see from a user experience and a workflow perspective in Vector Flow is driven by these studios. So very simple application configurations, toggles right in the admin portal. So authorized admins like Sam and Hector can make those changes that suit the business today and over the long haul. So I won't go through all these today, but some of the key ones here are, let's say from a user experience perspective, right? So, in the system, you can make changes to the user interface, right? So making the system your own, right? Adding new fields, having the look and the feel be very specific to your corporate branding, and also making sure that we're presenting the necessary data to the right people. So we have all of these controls. This is available for every form in the system. You can define the look and the feel. I can add new fields just by drag and drop. The really key thing here is all the different properties. I can make fields mandatory. I make them not mandatory. Lots of different things here. I can't go into all the data, but selecting from lists, ensuring, instead of having open text fields, I want to make sure that I have, data integrity and accurate data into a particular field. So I'll enforce that via a pick list, all those kind of things. I'm going to zoom all the way down to the bottom here because access to data, segregating data from a GDPR perspective and also from a user role perspective is absolutely critical. I want to make the system admins have the ability and employee managers have the ability to see things like maybe social security numbers, but the badging team shouldn't have that. That's very simply done here in this view, edit, and hide. All I have to do if I want certain roles within the system to see it, I just select that from a list. And if I don't want people to see it, it's just that easy. I hit apply here, I publish that change, and now I've hidden that particular field or component of a form from the folks that don't need to see it. Very, very powerful, very, very critical from a global organization, making sure that only the right people see the information based on their role and based on their need. Also, workflows, right? Adapting the policies of the organization to meet your needs. The system comes, with a whole bunch of preloaded workflows, but the real key here is being able to, easily manage those by your administrative team. Vector Flow utilizes an if this then that no code approach. So creating playbooks and workflows, managing those over the long haul are extremely easy. You select things from a pick list in plain English. I don't need to be a DBA to manage this, which is extremely critical if you're going to utilize and truly own the application on your own. So being able to select conditions and then also actions, right? So in plain English, if a certain identity is hired, right, and I can select which types of identities this onboarding policy applies to, and I can have different branches here based on, again, if this then that, but choosing actions, right? What are the things that happen as a part of that is very easy to do. So for example, if I want to, let's say anytime an employee is hired, I want that employee to be able to host visitors. I'm doing that right here. So I'm selecting those attributes, I'm choosing them from the pick list, and then I'm setting that value. And once I save that, it's automatically edited. Once I save, it's immediately available for deployment and usage by the system. And our real-time Kafka-based streaming engine picks that up immediately. And the next time someone's onboarded, this rule will apply there. So very powerful when it comes to the abilities of Vector Flow to automate all of the manual processes throughout that employee and contractor lifecycle, but making it extremely easy to adapt that to changing business requirements and needs now and well into the future. So that concludes our demo, at least for today. I hope everybody found that useful. I really appreciate everybody's time. I think we'll open it up for some Q&A now, but I appreciate everybody's time and thank you for attending today.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Lou. We'll turn things over to questions.
Looks like we have one coming in. So what are the three biggest differences between Vector Flow, PIAM, and everyone else?
Yeah, I'll be happy to take it. It's a good question because we covered ground quickly and covered the themes. But I would say really they fall into three core areas. One, data reconciliation. We can't overlook the impact and value of cleaning data at the beginning of every process, but keeping data synchronized through the various systems. It will have a magical effect on end user and administrative experience. Two, real-time data processing. We live in a real-time world. Onboarding, change access, offboarding, compliance, and audit need to be done with real-time data. So that's another key capability of Vector Flow. The third, I think, where does AI and machine learning fit in? It aids not only in the unification of the identity and the physical access, credential, and badging, but it gives a very powerful mechanism for both security and IT to administer the software on an ongoing basis, receive proactive, actionable intelligence around behaviors and anomalies and other things. And then maybe one last fourth, Vector Flow can be deployed at a fraction of the time of legacy systems and can be somewhat self-administered by our customers with no code enhancements and flexibility and adaptability. Those are my top four. Lou or Doug, anything you want to add to that?
No, I think those are certainly the key points of the differentiators, and certainly the experience, right? Simple experience, yet giving you intuitive controls and role-based controls to suit global organizations and the structure that they have and require for effective security controls.
Now, Lou, another question coming in: can Vector Flow integrate with SAP? And obviously, That's an easy one for you guys, but maybe walk through how that is facilitated and done on your side.
Yeah, absolutely. So Vector Flow is integrated with SAP and SAP SuccessFactors. We have that deployed today. We could do that a number of ways using the API structure and other means, but it's really focused on their APIs to provide that real time identity updates, synchronizing like all identities that come through there, even things like their training status and so forth, so that when those people are hired, change location or job title or combination thereof, and even terminations, that we automatically receive those and then execute workflows in Vector Flow to onboard them, automatically assign access, assign cards, remove and change that access if people move within the organization, and then immediate terminations upon receiving a termination feed from SAP. Real cool thing that we do too is there's even a feature where if they're terminated for a particular reason or cause, we can automatically pick that up and then automatically add that individual to the watch list so that they can't come back on any sites as a contractor or potentially a visitor.
Perfect. Yeah, thank you, Lou. So another question that came in, talking about how Vector Flow handles the connection to disparate access control systems. How do you guys specifically deal with possible duplicate badge IDs? And I think this is all going to come back to data reconciliation that we were just talking about. But if those local sites have duplicates in them, how does Vector Flow best handle that?
Yeah, thanks. I appreciate that, Eric. That's a great question. I know Kyle covered it a little bit earlier, but Vector Flow has two ways that we do this. Number one, on the front end of deploying the application is something that we call iCleanse. It's a tool that does deduplication and matching of data and linking of data from, let's say, your HR source, which is your gold source for identities, and all of your disparate access control systems and really any target system. So it helps if there's a unique identifier across all those systems, but if not, we have some machine learning techniques that can identify possible matches and link those. And that's something that you as the customer can own, which records are linked. So it doesn't require you to clean up all of that data prior to, as a requirement in order to deploy Vector Flow. We can link all of that data, and then over time you can cleanse it, you can replace orphan records and things like that. But we have lots of different techniques to identify matches, link those records so that you can properly deploy the system. So let's say that's on the front end. The other, let's say ongoing, right? So that tool is perpetually running. You can, run it at any point and choose to match those records and link and update and all that stuff. Then there's the reconciliation engine. That's where Vector Flow, not only from a real-time streaming perspective, is utilizing something, very different than a traditional messaging bus architecture or MSMQ, where it tries a few times and it stops to synchronize that data. So if we have to push an identity record or a card down to a disparate PACS, our real-time streaming engine provides guaranteed transmission and then reflects that status back in Vector Flow. So we can ensure that that data is pushed and synchronized. Our system is also on a daily basis reconciling all that data. So any changes that were pushed out to the various target systems, on a nightly basis, we're resynchronizing all that information. So for example, if there's a record that was changed or access was applied in the base access system that we didn't push down, we'll reconcile that. Any changes that might not have been able to be synchronized or, were added manually, we do automated notifications. We send out, newsletters every day for that. And we also have a very cool dashboard that shows you all of those different changes and synchronizations by card type, by card, all this really kind of cool filtering stuff. So from a onboarding perspective, we have a solution there, but then most importantly that, perpetual reconciliation and ensuring that there is no data drift and that we don't have data that's out of sync. That's probably the most critical piece of that puzzle. So good question.
Perfect. Aaron, you seeing any other questions?
Let me take a look. Yes. Okay. So one more. How quickly can Vector Flow be installed? Days or weeks compared to the reputation of traditional players?
Yeah, I think anybody could take this this question because we've all been involved in customer deployments, but it is typically weeks. You know, a global deployment, PIM in the legacy world typically takes a year, if not longer. And that's really because of the architecture of the products and the way that they're designed, which is, you know, rules and workflows have to be hand coded. And so as you deliver the product, there's changes, there's different locations have different rules, it may be privacy rules or onboarding requirements or offboarding requirements, any of these nuances that we're all familiar with in the identity and access management world. And so it takes forever and a day. And then there's the ongoing maintenance, which can be an absolute nightmare. And that's a separate question. Vector Flow is experienced, again, typically about 1/12 the time of legacy systems because we utilize state-of-the-art technology like playbooks in our design studios to rapidly deploy the solution, deliver immediate workflow. And so typically it's a matter of weeks for deployment. On average, probably anywhere between 3 and maybe 12 weeks, depending on the size of the organization, number of identities, the disparate physical access control systems, authoritative data sources. So that's been a real game changer, I think, for our customers and for the experience they're looking to have for an ongoing maintenance perspective.
Looks like we have one more. What type of integration does Vector Flow have?
Yeah, another great question, and any of us could answer, but we have an extensive library. I mean, integration is everything, right? We're a data-driven technology, and so integration with various different systems is very important. That ranges, as I was mentioning earlier, from your different authoritative data sources. Lou just mentioned that could be your HR system, could be your contractor or vendor system, could be Active Directory. You know, any of these authoritative data sources that are in the front end, and then of course, physical access control. We have customers that rely on a single standard, something like, say, Secure, or Linnell, or AMAG, or Genetec, but others that have many around the world that they're managing, they can't standardize. And so, you know, anywhere upwards of 10 different physical access control systems with Vector Flow, managing that throughput and that real-time data streaming between all those authoritative sources. But then there's all these new ones, right, Doug? There's systems like hoteling and desk reservation systems to aid in the process of returning to work, and other systems that are coming to light all the time that will not only aid in the journey of the end user experience. A great example, classic example, might be mustering, emergency mustering, and being able to collect that data and provide a support into that process from a physical access perspective. So very extensive library, and again, the leadership team here has over 150 years experience working with all of these systems. So it's core to what we do and our capability.
Yeah, and just one more thing I'll add on that topic is the fact that if you've got a data source that you want to integrate, the sky's the limit, right? They are an integration company first. So if they can get access to the data, there's a chance that they'll be able to do something with it that's of value from a dashboarding, reporting, or compliance perspective. So don't feel like you're limited to just physical security sources of data. As you mentioned, obviously we want to pull in HR, AD, IT security management tools, whatever those are. But there may be other sources of truth or information that you want to be able to pull in that could be relevant to your organization.